What does it take for a single arrest to unravel an entire police station in 30 minutes? In the heart of a gritty, rain-soaked city, the neon lights flickered over the precinct's faded sign. Inside, Officer Daniels tightened the cuffs on Jeremiah Brooks, a 78-year-old black veteran whose eyes held stories no one bothered to read. His worn military jacket, pinned with faded medals, hung loosely on his frail frame. The charge? Loitering. The truth? Jeremiah had been sitting on a park bench, feeding pigeons, when Daniels, young and eager to prove himself, decided the old man didn't belong in his neighborhood. The holding cell smelled of rust and regret. Jeremiah sat quietly, his hands folded, staring at the cracked concrete floor. He didn't protest, didn't argue. His silence unnerved Daniels, who muttered, "You should have just moved along, old man." Jeremiah's lips curved into a faint, knowing smile, but he said nothing. Outside, the rain pounded harder, as if the city itself sensed something was coming. 30 minutes. That's all it took. The precinct's doors burst open, and a dozen FBI agents stormed in, their black coats sweeping like a tidal wave. Leading them was Agent Carla Reyes, her eyes blazing with fury. "Where is he?" she demanded, her voice cutting through the chaos. The desk sergeant stammered, pointing toward the holding cells. Daniels, suddenly pale, clutched his radio, but no one answered his call for backup. Reyes didn't wait for permission. She marched to the cell, her team fanning out behind her. "Jeremiah Brooks," she said, her tone softening as she met his gaze. "You're coming with us." Jeremiah stood slowly, his movements deliberate, his dignity unshaken. Daniels, confused, blurted, "He's just some homeless guy. What's the FBI doing here?" Reyes turned, her stare cold enough to freeze blood. "You have no idea who you've arrested." The precinct buzzed with whispers as Jeremiah was escorted out. Who was this man? Why did the FBI care? The twist came not from Jeremiah, but from a figure who stepped out of the shadows, a young woman named Lena, her face streaked with tears, clutching a worn photograph. She wasn't on the precinct's radar, but she'd been watching from across the street, waiting for this moment. Lena was Jeremiah's granddaughter, a journalist who'd spent years digging into her grandfather's past. What she'd uncovered had sent shockwaves to Washington. Decades ago, Jeremiah wasn't just a soldier, was a covert operative, one of the first black men to serve in a secret unit that dismantled espionage rings during the Cold War. His missions were classified, his name erased from records to protect him. But the medals on his jacket? They weren't just for valor, they were keys to a truth the government had buried. Lena's research had caught the FBI's attention, not because Jeremiah was a threat, but because someone high up wanted his story silenced. His loitering was no accident, it was a setup to keep him quiet. As the FBI whisked Jeremiah away, Lena followed, her voice trembling but resolute. "They thought they could erase you, Granddad," she whispered. "But I found you." Jeremiah squeezed her hand, his eyes glistening. He'd never sought recognition, only peace. Yet peace was a luxury for a man whose sacrifices had saved countless lives, only to be forgotten by the country he served. Back at the precinct, Daniels slumped in a chair, the weight of his mistakes sinking in. Reyes lingered, her anger now tempered with sorrow. "Next time," she said, "look at the medals before you put on the cuffs." The rain slowed to a drizzle, and the city seemed to exhale. Jeremiah wasn't just an old man on a bench, was a hero, a ghost of history, and now, thanks to Lena, a name that would never be erased again. The value of a life isn't measured by what you see in a moment, but by the stories you don't bother to learn. Jeremiah Brooks walked free, not because of the FBI's rage, but because one young woman refused to let her grandfather's truth die in the dark.